Hey, AP Econ students, I wanted to go over your little mock macro question you had this morning as you're doing your final preps here for the test this afternoon. So let me quickly just go through this, and maybe that'll help clarify some any last second questions you've got. So this was, read this up here. After joining forces, the Stouses, Millers, and other like-minded siblings invaded Canada, renaming the country Twinlandia. Twinlandia is recovering from the overthrow and has an unemployment rate higher than the natural rate of unemployment. So instead of directly telling you that you're in a recession, it says the unemployment rate is higher than the natural rate, which means there's a lot of people not working, which means we must be in a recession. So be prepared to not be told directly what's going on. It might be just a hint of what's going on. So you guys could say, oh, I'm in a recession. So then the first question said, draw a correctly labeled graph of the economy of Twinlandia, show long run aggregate supply, short run, blah, 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 and we'll label our spots. So you should have come over here, and you said, okay, there's my LROS, and here's my SROS and my AD. And so my aggregate demand, here is my short run aggregate supply curve, and here is my long run aggregate supply. And it says their real output labeled as Y sub 1. So this is what's going on here, Y sub 1. And then the price level is over here. Okay, and then it says the full employment here, Y sub F. Okay, and that the F stands for full employment. That's why this is iron pot. All right, so this was question A, and that covers that. Then for B, it says draw the Phillips curve with both the short run and long run curves modeling the economy of Twinlandia with a point labeled T representing equilibrium. Now, normally we like to have these side by side, but we have to be on the cold side of Phillips, and because we're in a recession, but Phillips curve is horizontally opposite. So if we draw a Phillips curve, make this one a little bit smaller, and we say, well, on Phillips land, I'm going to draw this. Okay, this is my SRPC, and this is my LRPC, and this is my inflation rate. So I'll just put inflation rate here, and this is going to be unemployment. Okay, unemployment rate. And so I just need to represent a point that would represent a recession here. I'm just going to put that here, and that's T. So remember, horizontally opposite, we have cold side, hot side, but on this one, it's hot side, cold side. So this corresponds to that spot there. So a little Phillips curve review, okay? So that was B. All right. For part C, the head of the central bank of Twinlandia are Hayek twins, grandchildren, and have decided not to take any action. So the Austrian school, Hayekians, classicals are tending to let the economy self-correct. Will the inflation increase, decrease, or stay the same? Well, eventually, and so this I didn't word this especially well, but what's going to happen eventually to inflation is it's going to keep decreasing. Price level will keep decreasing, and show on your graph what's going to happen. Well, remember, if you need to, everyone, before the exam, make sure you look at the ADAS model and Phillips curve little video. If you do not intervene in an economy, SROS is going to move. If you do intervene in the economy, AD is going to move. I don't care if you do fiscal policy or monetary policy, you are intervening in the economy and you are changing the aggregate demand. So for this graph right here, we could either government spend to close it, we could cut taxes to increase consumption to close it, we could use monetary policy to lower interest rates to close it, but that's being an interventionist. If you decide to just be hands-off, you're letting the SROS take care of itself. AD doesn't change. And so what's going to happen to inflation, and to reflect this on your graph, if you are a non-interventionist, you're just going to let SROS move. And this will be SROS prime. Okay, that's what will happen. The rest of the question, though, talks about intervening, but this was part C. So I hope you get that straight. Okay, so will inflation increase, decrease, or stay the same? I'm going to put this right here. You guys, what winds up happening with inflation, look what's happening to price level. It's going to decrease. Okay. Now, what it would have been better maybe to say, will inflation in the long run increase, decrease, or stay the same? It'll decrease. You can see it's going down. Okay, it went from here to here. Showing your graph in part A what will happen in the long run. There it is. Okay, so that was 1, and then for 2, I'll just put see the graph. Okay. Part D, the current political leaders of Twinlandia just finished reading the general theory, Keynesians, and got tattoos of canes on their left forearm with the quote, "In the long run, we're all dead." So left being Democratic on the political spectrum. I hope you picked that up. Their research has revealed that Twinlandia's marginal propensity to consume is 0.75. Equilibrium real output is 300 billion. So the real output, everybody, Y sub 1 is 300 billion, but the full employment is 420. So this gap right here, you don't have to put this on the graph. I'm just doing it as we're going over this. So this gap, everybody, was 120 billion. Okay, because this was 300 and this was 420. Okay, so calculate the change in government spending to require a shift in aggregate demand. So this is a fiscal policy question without saying it. So I'll sneak this in right here. So here's D. All right, so fiscal policy, we know if we're going to do fiscal policy, we have to close that gap with our spending multiplier times the government spending program. But we have to figure out our multiplier. I'll do that right here. Let's see here. Let's make a little box that off a little bit. So right here, I'm going to put that, what do we have? Our MPC was 0.75. So MPC was 0.75, which means our marginal propensity to save is 0.25, which means that our spending multiplier is equal to 4. 1 over 0.25 is 4. So over here, the gap was 120 billion. My spending multiplier is 4 times G. I gave you nice friendly numbers here. You should have had $30 billion government spending program. Okay? Now, the other part of the question says, so that was part 1. And then part 2 says, calculate the change in taxes. So if we're going to change this with tax policy, we would say, okay, well, in that case, then the gap is equal to your marginal propensity, or the spending multiplier. It doesn't matter which one you put first, but the spending multiplier times your marginal propensity to consume your tax cut. Okay, so this is still 120 billion, and my spending multiplier was 4, but my marginal propensity to consume is 0.75, and I'm going to make that 3/4 times the tax cut. Well, these cancel, divide both sides by 3, and you should have gotten $40 billion for the tax cut. Okay, or you could have said negative 40 billion taxes because it's a cut, it's negative. Okay, so there's D. Okay, so we had ADAS, we had a Phillips curve, we had a little fiscal policy. We're all good so far. So I'm going to move this up so we got some room to work. All right. After an investigation into the central bank, it's discovered that they were not Hayek disciples after all. They had just been smoking a lot of surplus seized Canadian cannabis left over from the invasion, and were letting everything just run its course, man. The new leaders of the central bank are interested in taking action to restore the economy to full employment. So list all the actions the bank could take. Well, if they're in a recession and we have, where are we at here? E. And we have responsible central bank chairs, they're going to say, well, the 3 tools we got to use, we have the reserve ratio, and we're going to have to lower it. We're going to also have to lower the discount rate. And we're also going to have to do some open market operations. And the open market operations we're going to have to do to lower interest rates to stimulate the economy, we are going to have to buy bonds. Okay? Then, for part 2, it says, draw a correctly labeled graph of the money market showing the effect of the actions taken in part 1. All of these things on the money market, I'm going to make this kind of small so I don't run out of room. There is our supply of money. There is the demand for money. Here is our quantity of money, and here is our nominal interest rates. Okay? So all of these actions, all of them will result in an increase in the money supply. Okay, and so here is our SM1, and what happened? My interest rates that were up here dropped to here. And lower interest rates stimulate business spending, investment, and economic growth. Okay, so this would be the biggie. It's the reserve ratio and the required reserves. That's going to increase your money supply here. Okay, so this is showing my interest rates are going down. So that was part 2. Right here was that graph. Okay. F says, an interesting attribute of twins in Twinlandia is that they rarely save their money and take great pride in their role of C, consumption flow, circular flow. Draw a correctly labeled graph of the loanable funds market in Twinlandia. Okay, I think we have just enough room here to put this down here. All right, so here's a loanable funds question. All right, so you guys make your loanable funds market. Pretty normal supply and demand. All right, so I have the supply of loanable funds, the demand for loanable funds, and this is our real interest rates. Okay, real interest rates, and this is our quantity of loanable funds. Okay, and I'm just going to put LFM up here. All right, so this would be the loanable funds market, but it says the twins, they don't save money very much. They spend a lot. Well, what that's going to do, that means that savings decreases. Okay, so we have this going on. We have a decrease, and this actually increases real interest rates. Okay, they go up. So this would be IR sub 1. I'll put that there. And this would be IR sub 2. Okay, so this is raising interest rates. All right, and then for part G, I'll put this right here. It says, theoretically, will the effect of the interest rate change in part F make the situation worse or better in the current economic problem in Twinlandia? Well, here was the connection you were supposed to make. If this is raising interest rates, that's going to decrease borrowing, decrease investment, decrease consumption. So high interest rates is making the situation worse. We want low interest rates to stimulate activity. So actually, we would say it's making it worse. Now, you don't want to overthink it and say, yeah, but on this question, they said they were lowering it. This was just a theoretically standalone. Don't just here's the problem. Here's what's going on. Does this make that better or worse? And it just makes it worse. Okay. So the nice thing about this question was we had the ADAS model, we had a Phillips curve, we had a money market, and we had a loanable funds market. So it's a very comprehensive question. Okay. So there it is. Hopefully that made sense. Didn't take too long to do that, you guys. That was we're just over 10 minutes here. So again, good luck, you guys, on your test today, and I hope this last little second review helped. And we will touch base next week. We'll have our last little class very briefly, just to get together one last time and say goodbye. I'll post that on Canvas. So good luck, everybody. Hope you do well. Hang in there.